Right now, while you are watching this, millions of people are making a decision, not a rational one, an emotional one dressed up as logic. The Korean stock market just jumped 6% in days. Samsung, SK Hynix, AI chips. Everyone is talking about it, everyone is excited, and somewhere in your chest, if you're honest, you feel it too. That pull, that whisper that says you're missing something, that feeling has a name, and it has destroyed more people than any market crash ever did. Marcus Aurelius wrote this in his private journal, a book he never intended anyone to read. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. He wasn't writing to inspire a poster on someone's wall. He was writing to himself, because he knew that the most dangerous battlefield a man ever walks onto is the one inside his own skull. Here is what nobody tells you about hype. It doesn't feel like weakness, it feels like clarity. When the crowd moves together, when the headlines align, when smart-sounding people on every platform are saying the same thing with the same excited energy, it feels like you are finally seeing something real. That feeling of certainty in a moment of collective excitement is one of the most reliable signals that your thinking has been compromised. Stop. That is not insight, that is contagion. Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and died one of the most respected philosophers in Rome, said this: "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Not what the crowd does, not what the moment demands. What you decided in a clear and quiet hour that you would be." The AI hardware story is real. The demand for chips is real. Samsung and SK Hynix are returning capital to shareholders because their balance sheets are strong and their boards are confident. That is real information. But here is the game you are not being shown. By the time a story is everywhere, by the time it is in the headlines you scroll, the podcasts you listen to, the group chats that explode with excitement, the early movers have already moved. The narrative arrives after the position. You are not getting information. You are getting a signal designed to trigger a response. And if you respond on instinct, you are not an investor. You are inventory. You are the exit liquidity for someone who moved before the story broke. That is the outer game. Read it clearly. The machine that generates excitement around markets is not your friend. It is not your advisor. It is not even neutral. It is a system that profits from your reaction. Every click, every trade, every emotional buy-in at the peak of a story feeds something that has nothing to do with your sovereignty. Now here is where most people stop. They hear this, they feel a flash of anger or recognition, and then the next alert comes in and they move anyway. Because knowing the game is not enough. The Stoics understood this. You do not beat desire by understanding it. You beat it by having something stronger already in place. A rule, a process, a prior decision made in calm that governs your behavior in chaos. Here is the framework. 3 moves, simple, non-negotiable. First, separate the event from the narrative. The event is what actually happened. Samsung announced buybacks. KOSPI moved. Those are facts. The narrative is what people say it means. AI is about to explode. This is the beginning of a supercycle. Chips will run forever. The narrative is always louder than the event, always more exciting and always less reliable. When you feel excitement building, stop and write down the actual facts in one sentence. Just the facts. That single act breaks the spell of narrative and forces your analytical mind back online. Second, check your process, not your emotions. Before you make any move, financial or otherwise, ask, is this consistent with the plan I made when I was calm? Not, does this feel right? Not, am I going to regret missing this? Your calm self is smarter than your excited self. Always. If a decision can only be justified by the energy of the moment, it should not be made in the moment. Write your rules when you are clear. Execute them when you are tempted. That gap between the temptation and the action is the entire discipline. It is small. It is everything. Third, audit your inputs. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the trained refusal to let every impression that enters your mind be immediately accepted as true and acted upon. In practical terms, this means asking, who benefits from my excitement right now? Which platforms, which voices, which financial products profit when I react? Once you see the incentive structure behind the information you are consuming, the emotional charge drops. Not because the information is false, but because you see it for what it is, a trigger, not a truth. Machiavelli, who spent his life studying how power actually moves, wrote that men are so easily deceived by present appearances. He meant this as an observation, not a critique. It is a structural truth about human cognition. We are built to respond to what is immediate, vivid, and shared. The crowd moving around us activates something ancient and automatic. Acknowledging that is not weakness. Failing to account for it is. The man who stays sovereign in a hype cycle does not do it by being emotionally dead. He does it by being emotionally governed. There is a profound difference. He feels the pull, he acknowledges it. And then he acts from his prior decision, not from the pull itself. That is not passivity, that is command. This is what separates the strategist from the pawn in any arena, financial or otherwise. The pawn moves because the board is exciting. The strategist moves because the position is correct. One is governed by the moment, the other governs the moment. You are watching this because somewhere in you, you know the difference. You have been the pawn. You have felt that sick recognition afterward when the excitement fades and the decision you made in its heat looks very different in the cold light of the next morning. That recognition is not failure, that is the beginning of discipline. Epictetus did not start free. He started in chains, and through the governance of his own mind, he became the freest man in Rome. You do not need a better market. You do not need better headlines. You need a mind that cannot be seized. Build that, and you carry your advantage into every room, every decision, every cycle of noise that the world throws at you. That is the work. That is the practice. And it starts today, not when the next story breaks. If that is the kind of strength you are building, subscribe to STOLVEX. Every video is a step along this arc from pawn to sovereign. And if you want the framework delivered directly to you, the newsletter link is below. Keep rising.